Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you live to episode number 43 of the Primetime Rundown, powered by StreamYard right here on the Eastern Observer, presented to you by Black Cats NYC and their newest hit, Dirty Little Hipster. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back to episode 43 of the Primetime Rundown right here on the Eastern Observer, presented to you by Black Cats NYC. I'm Joey Jarzynka, alongside my partner, Rob DeLuca. Cannot thank you all enough for joining us here on this Friday evening. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in our third guest host this evening, Anthony Tornatore, or otherwise known in the wrestling world and on our other podcast as Tony T, and the way I say it, Tony the Tiger. Anthony Tornatore, how are you, buddy?
Joe, how's it going? It's great to be here. I haven't talked sports on a live show in God knows how long, probably since pre-pandemic. That's how long it's been, so it feels good to be back on.
Really, really happy to have you on here, sir. It's been a fun few weeks. It's been a fun few days as well, and we are extremely blessed to announce here on the Primetime Rundown. It was it was announced this morning, and this is actually going to be on the newest on-demand site that we have partnered with, and ladies and gentlemen, we are now on the following platforms. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Google Play in the Google Play Store. And we are also on Spotify as well. So please, ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to us at the Primetime Rundown, at the Essential Wrestling Podcast, and at the Daily Wrestling News Show. All great stuff. The entire Eastern Observer, all of the shows are on those platforms, excuse me. So all of my mumbles and everything will be on Apple. So it's going to be some good stuff there. DeLuca, it's been a couple of weeks since I've seen you. Happy Thanksgiving. And you, Ian, Larry Protakowitz, and your buddy Casey Bryant took over the show in my absence. Really, really good stuff there just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Joey, I mean, it's been some time since I've seen you. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Anthony, you as well. It's great to be back after a bye week, I guess we'll call it. And yeah, I just absolutely love the way we took last show and ran with it with all four guys. And despite, some technical difficulties, we powered right through it, which now, as Joey mentioned, all these platforms, you can now go listen to those screw-ups for yourself and see just how great it could have gone.
Exactly. That is very true. So as DeLuca said, all of those can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Google Play Store. Also, let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, you did hear just earlier, Dirty Little Hipster, presented to you by Black Cats NYC. Their newest album, Free Cake, did come out on November 13th. Please listen to their album on Apple Music, Deezer, YouTube, SoundCloud, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Pandora, and the aforementioned Spotify as well. So, fellas, let's get into this. We've got a big show ahead of us. A lot of things has gone on in the last few weeks, in the last few days, rather. And, let's start off with baseball, because we are all baseball fans here. We are all Yankees fans here. And I know for a fact that DeLuca and I had texted about this once we heard that Gary Sanchez was tendered a contract by the New York Yankees. Anthony Tornatore, I need to start with you as one of the biggest Yankees fans that I know. I need to hear about your thoughts that Gary Sanchez will most likely be back in a Yankees uniform. God help us, or is it a good thing?
I wish that Kyle Higashioka was 5 or 6 years younger. Because with all the bats in this Yankees lineup, you really don't need another batter like Gary Sanchez, especially if you bring in DJ LeMahieu again. There's been some rumblings about Michael Brantley as a lefty hitter that the Yankees, who would fall in love with Yankee Stadium. So they have enough hitters on their team. Clint Frazier. So having Gary Sanchez back really, it doesn't do anything for me. But I believe the tender's $5 million. You're paying him $5 million as you prove to us that this is your position. And if he doesn't, then you trade him, you're out $5 million. It's not the end of the world, especially for the Yankees. So this is his time to shine. If he plays good, it's great. If he plays bad, now we know for certain that he's not the catcher.
It's so tough because what we saw, the arbitration eligible players, one of which was Gary Sanchez, and when they tendered him a contract, as you did say, it was, I believe, around $5 million, which really is not that much, but for a struggling catcher that at one point was to be the next Jorge Posada. For all you kids out there who do not know who Jorge Posada is, please open up the record books because he is a part of the core four back when the three of us, were children. And, he had a 147 batting average last year in the regular season with 10 home runs and 24 RBIs, albeit it was a shortened season due to COVID, due to the labor issues with the CBA or with the Players Association and the designated hitter becoming a mainstay in the National League. So maybe he needed a change of scenery. And you know what? As Tornatore did say, $5 million, not really going to break the bank. But with the New York Mets now under new ownership, there's a lot of competition now for some people. Rob DeLuca, I want to know your thoughts about the Yankees tendering this contract. And I want to say it could be a little up in the air, question marks per se.
Yeah, I mean, look, this contract is fine. I mean, it's only $5 million right now. So like Anthony said, it's pretty much a prove it deal. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And a little pocket change is lost for the Yankees, which again does not mean a whole lot. And I do think that, as Anthony also mentioned, with Higashioka not being as young as we would like him to be, we got to stick with some youth, and that's where Gary Sanchez comes into play. He's not that old yet, and he's also got the best arm from behind the plate on that roster. There's no question about that. That when it comes down to throwing guys out at second base, third base, Gary Sanchez is the man to do it. It's just a matter of working on the past balls. Obviously, the last two seasons, we have been seeing many, many issues with Gary Sanchez behind the plate, as well as just mainly this past season up at bat. He was in a slump that you can't. It was the slump of slumps. It seemed like he could just never recover. It was very uncertain, but this is definitely a move. Because we also know from 2 seasons and beyond ago what exactly Gary Sanchez can do when he's hot. And that is why I think they gave him this kind of a deal to prove that he can still be that player. And if he does get back to that, Yankee fans are going to be all back in his corner again, very excited.
Well, and that's the whole thing also, Tornatore, and we know this as Yankees fans, and, we get very hot over one player, either performing at an astronomical rate, or we get so hot because they are underperforming and they are performing so underwhelmingly, where we start to see a player such as like Randy Johnson, for instance. Do we remember many years ago, guys, when Randy Johnson was on the team and the big unit was supposed to be the star in New York? He was supposed to be he could not get anywhere. He could not perform he couldn't do it at Yankee Stadium. He couldn't do it. And I don't know if Gary Sanchez, was he a flash in the pan a couple of years ago? Listen, he's 28 years old. He's 2 years younger than Kyle Higashioka. Just 2 years younger. And something that Tornatore brought up that I thought was phenomenal too is that the left-handed bats at Yankee Stadium is monumental. It really is. And the right-handed bats that are in the Yankees lineup, is bar none. It really is. There's all the way from what, well, you figure 2 with the exception of switch hitter Aaron Hicks, but then also Brett Gardner from, let's say, 2 or 3 to 9. They're all right. They're all right-handed hitters. You need that lefty somewhere. Gary Sanchez, he's a righty. You were talking about that with Brantley. Elaborate a little bit more on that, Tornatore. Where could the Yankees have gone in a different direction? Is this the post George Steinbrenner, we're taking the cheap route, maybe we're going to give him one more chance? Or is this because there's no catcher on the market and they don't want to make another Brian McCann type deal that blew up in their face just a couple of years ago?
Yeah, first off, we've been spoiled for catchers. If you follow the Yankees, we've had catchers that played years for Jorge Posada, never hurt. And I'll even go further back than that. Yogi Berra, for years, Elston Howard. The Yankees have had so much luck with catchers, especially backup catchers too. The Yankees have always had phenomenal backup catchers. We saw last year with Austin Romine, Francisco Cervelli years back. So the Yankees have had such luck with catchers that it's crazy that we're actually talking about this, because there was one thing you never had to worry about. It was always the pitching that the Yankees had to worry about. They never had that guy, those 3 guys. And right now, it's the same story over and over again. And we heard the Yankees say earlier this year that they're going to be penny pinching. The Yankees lost so much money last season that, back then you could say, oh, Yankees will get DJ LeMahieu. They'll give him his 5 years, $100 million. It's all good. Not this year. They might not get him back because they can't afford him. And I never thought I'd say those words. Yeah. So you're taking back Gary Sanchez on a $5 million deal. It's a prove it deal, but you really hope he does prove something, because the free agency class next year is horrible.
Yeah. And you look right now, even at the catchers, guys, it's, JT Realmuto is the number 1 catcher on the market at age 30. And again, it seems to be like 30 is that magic number where you start to really turn away. And just like, again, we brought up the aforementioned Brian McCann, where that contract, if I'm not mistaken, guys, was given when he was either 30 or 31 years old, coming from the Braves. And that deal, again, blew up in their face because of the emergence of Gary Sanchez. Now we're looking beyond Sanchez, where in the playoffs, he was not the starter. And no one would ever think that, which really is crazy. And you also now hear rumblings of the potential that James McCann could be trying to find a 4 to 5 year deal at age 31 years old. I mean, you have to stay away from that. And exactly right. Austin Romine, 32 years old now. Mike Zunino, 30 years old. He had a fantastic postseason last year. Eric Kratz, can't believe it, 41 years old already. Matt Wieters, 35. Sandy Leone, 32. Wellington Castillo, 34. He had a couple of years in Chicago on the north side. It's really Jason Castro, 34 years old. A lot of these players are beyond past their prime. And you know what? I do have to agree with Tornatore there. It might be the best route to go down, because there's really not many catchers available that are, I don't want to say that they're, I would say cheap, but you might have no choice but to go with this guy and just say, we'll try one more year, DeLuca.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is a lot. There's not a lot.
And the penny pinching. And I don't mean to interrupt, but also the Phillies a couple of days ago came out and said they lost $2 billion. I don't know how true that number is.
I don't know how to believe that.
But $2 billion from the pandemic. $2 billion. And they were unable to afford JT Realmuto.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the case.
I'm a little shocked by that. I don't know how true that is. It seems a little crazy, even for a pandemic year. That seems a little crazy. But nonetheless, that's right. They can't afford Realmuto now, and that more than likely means the Mets could easily swoop in, because that's been their number 1 target since 2 years ago, to try and get on the Mets roster. And after that, it's pretty slim pickings in terms of catchers. So it makes sense that the Yankees went this route, and it's good that they were able to get him cheap, because they definitely have a lot more work to do to figure out how to get DJ LeMahieu to waiver from 5 years, because that appears to be the issue as opposed to the money. The money doesn't seem to be as much of an issue as the term.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, I say, look, that's something you worry about in 3 years. Put in an opt-out clause or something after 3 years, and let it be that. You need to pay, because DJ LeMahieu's been the best player on this team since he got here.
Yeah.
And you cannot afford to let him go. It's not even a question at this point.
He's been the best player in all of baseball. Yeah. And
that too.
It's crazy how we're sitting here talking about teams like the Yankees and the Phillies, penny pinchers. Don't forget, the Phillies, they're paying Bryce Harper a lot of money. They were on that back end of that, I believe, that Arrieta deal. It was a 2-year deal for like $60 million. That's a lot of money for a pitcher that didn't perform that you thought the way he was. So I could see how they can afford Realmuto. But I was looking into the free agency class of next year. The best catcher is going to be Buster Posey. He's going to be 36 years old. The youngest catcher is going to be John Ryan Murphy at 31. So this guy has to do something. All the other guys, the Salvador Perez, 33. And we know how, 15 years ago, 33 was like, oh, we'll give him a 5-year deal. Don't worry about it. Now, 33, it's 1 year, 2-year deal, 3 at most. So they really have to figure this out. Now, maybe open the bank up for Realmuto or at least James McCann. Do not let the Mets get both of them, because that's what Steve Cohen wants to do. He wants as many people as he could get. And I think it's going to be an issue with the owners and him.
He can get them. That's the biggest issue. He can get them.
Yeah, and he's also, don't forget, he's also worth nearly $14 billion. He's worth $14 billion. So
what do you do with that money? Yeah. I wouldn't know what to spend it on.
Yeah.
Spend it on players, apparently.
That's it. $14 billion, really, really good stuff. But we'll have to see what the deal is moving forward with these catchers, because now we talk about those lefty batters, guys. And exactly what Tornatore had spoke about earlier with looking after Michael Brantley, possibly. Why not go after the non-tendered Kyle Schwarber? How about that, guys? He was not tendered a contract by the Chicago Cubs. Well, wouldn't he fit at Yankee Stadium? Wouldn't he fit? And not only that, I don't know, maybe we can put him in, let's say, left field. Who knows what Brett Gardner is going to do? I don't know. Maybe he can be a backup. Maybe he could be a designated hitter. He could be someone that comes off the bench. Ever since his injury a couple of seasons ago, fellas, Schwarber has not been the same. DeLuca, does Schwarber gain any momentum if he were to come to New York? Does he maybe feel the contract? Does he wait till... Does the teams wait until February to speak to him? What happens?
It's like this. It comes down to whether or not he can get back to what he was. Because you are correct. He's not what he used to be. It was very clear from this past season. But then again, I firmly believe nobody should be judged based on this past season. This 60-game season should not be reflective on anybody's potential whatsoever. And it also comes down to, yes, a lot of players do benefit from playing in Yankee Stadium, the short porch, and just, when you're not trying to hit for power, this is the place to play. And obviously, with it being the Yankees are a suitor for everybody ever, just because that is what happens when you have such a big payroll. You don't have to worry about money, but obviously we have already discussed that they are going to be penny pinching, but that doesn't mean they won't necessarily be in the running, just because sometimes you have to open up the wallet a little bit. And so that's what we're going to look at. You're going to see teams like the Yankees and Mets with these big payrolls. Well, now the Mets, and that'll be that they're just going to be in on everybody. They're going to be contenders to get every single person that is out there.
Yeah.
Does that mean that'll happen? No, not necessarily. I don't personally see Schwarber coming to the Yankees, but it can't be ruled out 100% either.
Yeah, and something I want to just bring up here right before we get to Anthony Tornatore, SiriusXM host Lenny Melnick is commenting with us, and we really do appreciate that. A couple of things that he did bring up here. Schwarber, a possibility for the Yankees, and for some reason, Lenny, if you are watching, we can see it on here. I actually have to stare over to my other laptop to see your comments because for some reason it is not popping up in here. So if you would be, it would be possible, please, to comment under the Eastern Observer logo, please, if you can. I will read your comments though, so then we can speak about them here. Schwarber hit 188 in the abbreviated 2020 season. Only 5 players who came to bat at least 175 times had a worse average, with Sanchez at the bottom at 147. That's a pretty good stat, actually, and it just shows also how far Schwarber has gone down. It's crazy. Tornatore, would you like to elaborate on that and the possibility of maybe the New York Yankees as a spot for Schwarber to re-energize his career?
For the next 8 years, the designated hitter is going to be Giancarlo Stanton. Healthy. He will be your DH. And the Yankees have reinvigorated Clint Frazier. He looks like he wants to play now. He almost won a Gold Glove after a year ago. We were saying this is the worst defensive guy we've ever seen. He's gotten so much better. Center field, I know Aaron Hicks is hurt a lot. Estevan Florial's on his way up. I know we saw him a couple of games in the season, and he was outmatched, but he's a young kid. He was in single A. And your right fielder is Aaron Judge, whether people want to know it or not. What a lot of people don't know is Kyle Schwarber's original position as a catcher. And I think it's early in – I don't know if it's early enough in his career. He's going to be 28 in March to maybe try it out. Having a lefty hitting catcher in Yankee Stadium would be perfect. He's hit 120 home runs in his last 5 seasons. It's about 20, 25 home runs a year. That's not bad.
And that's in Wrigley.
And Wrigley Field.
Most games being played at Wrigley.
Yes. So now you have Yankee Stadium, the short porch. Guy could easily hit 40 home runs if he has a healthy year. I know Theo Epstein was very high on Schwarber. When Epstein left, they wanted to get rid of Schwarber because they didn't like him. And this guy knows what he's doing. He's turned teams around and he's won championships. So he's got to know a few players. And Schwarber, I think he's a great player too. As an outfielder, I don't want him on my team. If you could get him to become a catcher, see what happens on a prove-it deal, I'll give you $1 million. If you could I'll give you 1 year. If you could be a good catcher, then we'll keep you. Again, what do you have to lose?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, it really is the truth. And something else also, fellas, was that Kyle Schwarber, that was, Brian Cashman loved him many years ago. He loved him when he came up, and I wouldn't be surprised to see I would not be surprised to see him again. Maybe there is, again, as we brought up earlier, a possible destination with Brian Cashman still here in the Bronx. I wouldn't be surprised maybe if at least maybe there's a conversation to be had. There's something along those lines. But again, a name like Kyle Schwarber, I would not be surprised to at least have a conversation with him. And maybe we'll see. We don't know what the deal is with COVID. Everything can potentially go out the window. We don't know if there's going to be a season. We don't know if there's going to be a shortened season. We don't know if there's going to be everything back to normal. We have no idea. Schwarber is definitely a part of that as well. Fellas, let's keep moving forward here. The New York Mets, they just signed Trevor May. Guys, I don't know if you watched the press conference for Trevor May, but I think he's got a future in television after all of this is done. And I think also you give out a very small contract like that, and I think it just shows how much penny pinching many teams are going to be doing this offseason and potentially moving forward. Who wants to take that first? DeLuca.
Sure. Look, it's a good signing for the Mets. Let's not be hasty. I mean, it's a nice contract. He's a decent player, and I'm just worried it's possibly a start of things to come for the Mets, potentially. Like this, that might have just been the first signing in a big wave of signings that Steve Cohen may or may not do. Because look, when you've got this, again, like we said earlier, when you've got this much money to work with, you're a dangerous man. And he is absolutely the most dangerous man in baseball right now. And it might just be starting with Trevor May, but we will see. But yes, Joey, I do like your point there. Because of how small the contract was, it seems like a lot of teams are going to be very, very conservative with their money and play it out very strategically because they need to make sure, just because, look, this is their money they're working with, essentially. So they got to see that they're able to have a somewhat normal season, get fans in the stands, etc., and see if they can make money back. So that way they can eventually give out these big-time deals. So it might be a waiting game in terms of, seeing some of these big names come off the market. We don't know. It's just a matter of time, and we will see. But as for the Mets, Trevor May's a upstanding guy. He's going to be a fine player. He's going to fit. I personally think he's going to fit very well there, and it's just a solid signing by the Mets.
Yeah. You look back at his career or look at his career numbers with the Minnesota Twins, 2014, 2016, 2018, 2020 in 2-year spurts, 23 and 21, 4.44 earned run average, 367 career strikeouts. Tornatore, is this a sign for bigger things to come for the New York Mets?
I hate talking positive about the Mets. If the Mets and the Red Sox were in the World Series against each other, I'd root for the Red Sox. That's how much I hate the Mets. And I'm a Yankee fan. And I hate to say that, but...
I mean, it literally happened in '86, but...
I know. Thank God I wasn't alive, because I would have been very torn. But I don't know if this is a sign of things to come. I thought it would have happened already. At the end of the day, yes, Steve Cohen will sign the checks, and he will dish out the money. But it's Sandy Alderson who's going to be making these phone calls and making these deals. Steve Cohen is a Mets fan, and he's a businessman. He has never owned a baseball team before. It is not that easy. Look at Derek Jeter. All the crap he got throughout the past few years, and he did it. Got his team to the playoffs. I know in a COVID year, but he did it. That's a guy that knows baseball. He wasn't a fan. He was a player. So I really don't know what's going to happen. I really thought it was going to happen already. These signings were going to happen. And I think the Mets are already not doing good. They don't have a GM. Sandy Alderson picked himself. Your first job was to pick a general manager, a competent GM, which you could have found out there. Theo Epstein just got let go. It was right there in the open for you. And
well, okay, so I want to interject here, and something that we've spoken about on this podcast before, especially with our co-host Ian Schreier, who is a diehard Mets fan. This is something that is, I believe, a very, very, very big topic to discuss, and the reason why is because Sandy Alderson, what he did when and you want to talk about penny pinching, fellas, the New York Mets have been a laughing stock in not only New York, but all of baseball, in all of professional sports, or in all of sports, period, even down into the Pee Wee level. The New York Mets have been a laughing stock under the Wilpons. And Sandy Alderson, let's not forget, he was one general manager to trade Michael Fulmer for Yoenis Cespedes, do a fantastic job. He was one who tried to do what he could in terms of trades, in terms of penny pinching free agent signings. Now is the time. You saw, guys, what Steve Cohen did in hour number 1 through about 5. On business day number 1, Steve Cohen cleaned house. And I know, Tornatore, that he is a diehard Mets fan. He bought his childhood team. That is the coolest thing. It is. You literally you work your butt off to buy your childhood team. Not many people could say that. And he's also the richest man in baseball. So those are two things that are there with him. the next thing. When you have a trade such as Cespedes, yes, it didn't work out. Yes, it didn't whatever. The Wilpons lost a ton of money with Bernie Madoff. Yes. But we have to realize, and we have to give a lot of credit to Sandy Alderson, what he did to get the Mets to the 2015 World Series. Again, they lost in 6 games. They did. They lost 4-2 to the Kansas City Royals. The Royals were lights out that year. Okay? They were fantastic in the 2015 season. But we have to realize, just before I get back to you, Tornatore, is that I understand that they, to buy these players, to buy whatever the case may be. And for those that are watching, please tell me if I'm wrong. Comment, please. And Lenny, I know you're watching, so that would be great. You can go out and you have to say to yourself that Alderson was a pretty damn good general manager years ago. And I think the only transition problem that he could have now, okay, maybe he might strike out on a few free agent signings now because the checkbook is wide open. But in terms of trades, I think he made his mark there. He did fantastic with basically working with nothing. Yeah. And now I think, and one more point, Tornatore. Yeah. I think, and that's Justin Turner, yeah, okay, he traded him, but guess what? He's now in was in Los Angeles. Not going to see him back there, we don't think. And that's what Lenny did write on the comments was about Justin Turner. But we have to look back seriously in how they got to the 2015 World Series. You traded away a few guys. You also, if I'm not mistaken, again, fellas, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was I think he was the general manager that coordinated that R.A. Dickey trade as well.
Well, Dickey won the Cy Young in what year again? 2010? No,
2014, I believe.
Okay, yeah, then that was his trade because Sandy Alderson came in 2010.
Yeah.
After Omar Minaya left. And, I give a lot of props to Omar Minaya. He dealt with this team in the middle of a Ponzi scheme. That's not easy to do after his owners got caught in a Ponzi scheme and that he had no money. Sandy Alderson, he did do a good job. But through this decade, it's been the same story. Besides 1 year in 2015, it's been the same thing. They start off red hot, trade deadline comes, and then they fall apart in the second. I mean, they start off hot, they go slow, trade deadline, nothing happens, and then the cycle repeats itself.
Right.
He really hasn't done anything and I'm not saying Brody Van Wagenen did this hell of a job because he only signed guys that were his former clients. And he made one of the worst trades in baseball history for that horrible Cano deal, which just continues to show why it was so bad. And that Edwin Diaz deal, which the guy was a god in Seattle, and he's like a peasant in New York.
He couldn't do it. He
could not do it. And we've seen it in the past. People can't perform in New York. We saw it with Sonny Gray. We saw it with A.J. Burnett.
Yep.
And that's just the Yankees.
Travis d'Arnaud as well. Yes. Travis d'Arnaud.
It could go on. The pressure in New Yorkers, it's something in the water in New York or something. They cannot perform here.
Well, and this is something also that I think all three of us who work in the media, we know that New York media is literally they're hawks. They're
a bunch of savages.
A
literal bunch of savages.
Yeah, and you know what? And no pun intended for the Yankees and everything like that with savages. But in all seriousness, it is just it's crazy. It really is crazy for sure. DeLuca, I want to talk about. I want to finish this Mets topic with you, and I want to see your thought about Trevor May, and also if those are big things to come.
Yeah, look, like I said, I think it's a decent signing for the Mets. All right, so I think he'll fit very nicely there. In terms of I also do believe it could be, but it's going to take time because of all this going on, pandemic. Got to try to figure out what kind of season we're going to have. If it's going to be completely normal, fans in the stands, yes, no, maybe a little bit, maybe a lot. It's so many question marks. So owners are playing and GMs are playing very, very conservatively right now. And that is why we have not yet seen a DJ LeMahieu signing yet, why we have not seen a JT Realmuto signing yet. Because, look, if there's no pandemic, more than half these guys off the market already. They're signed they're signed to teams, and there's not much happening with free agency. But that's
Do you remember a year ago with Bryce Harper and Machado? Spring training started, they weren't even on teams. I don't think teams want to give out big contracts anymore.
Well, there's that too. It's just a matter
because they don't pan out. It's a waste of look at Stan.
Yeah. How much can you really commit to one person? And that's where the Yankees hesitate with LeMahieu because of the term, the money. Like I said, the money is not the issue. It is the term. They do.
But
not
would you give?
They don't want to give 5 years to a 32-year-old player.
He's 33. If you give him 5 years, he'll be 38 when the contract's done. Am I correct? Right?
I believe he's 32. Maybe he turned 33 recently.
Okay, so you would give him. Would you give him 5 years?
Because of how he's playing without hesitation. But I would structure the contract correctly. I would front load them. I would front load the money first of all, so that way he's making most of it now while he's still hot. And then I would throw in an opt-out clause in like year 3 or something if he does start declining by then. You throw in these opt-outs. You just got to structure it properly. But when you have a player that has made such a big impact on this team, like DJ LeMahieu has done, literally, as you said earlier, I believe, Anthony, we haven't seen a guy like this make an impact like this since Derek Jeter. You don't let that go. Yeah. You just don't do it.
And you know what?
Really had that with Derek Jeter happened 10 years ago. It was nearly devastating.
That's 100% right. So if you give him 5 years at 32, 33, he'll be 38 by the end of the season. Then you see somebody like Aaron Judge. Do you give him 10 years when he turns 28? Or do you hesitate? They don't want to give out these big contracts. People get hurt, and by the time they're 34, 35, they're done.
That's why Aaron hasn't gotten that big contract yet because of his injuries. If he didn't get hurt at the first, he may already be on a big contract.
Fellas, we also saw Alex Rodriguez. If I'm not mistaken, he signed that 10-year deal at age 27.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, my God.
Okay. That was there. But then also, let's not forget.
I mean, at least we got 7 good years out of it. I mean,
roughly. And then also you trade for Giancarlo Stanton, who has 10 years to go. Good Lord. You figure you learned your lesson the first time.
And he's not opting out. He will not opt out. Would you opt out?
Would you say no to exactly? Would you say no to that money? Hell no.
You do nothing.
Not only would you say no to that money, but also, guys, we completely come full circle in our conversation because of COVID, because of the uncertainty of money. Are you really going to be getting that much money in this brand new decade and brand new state of, a pandemic?
Absolutely
not. The only time that happens is if you're generational. Mike Trout, he's a generation player. He deserves it. Just to go to another sport, Patrick Mahomes deserves it.
Yeah.
And those guys are never hurt. They don't miss games. They don't complain if they stub their toe or if their hamstring hurts them. These guys, if they jam their thumb, they're out for 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a rare find to find Iron Men these days. Like, I don't know where your football allegiance lies. Just make an example. I'm a Giants fan, so I was spoiled by Eli Manning, literally never missing a game. Never missing a game.
I know. Now
Started for 15 years straight after Kurt Warner was benched. Never missed a start. That game against the Raiders in 2015 did not happen because Ben McAdoo doesn't exist. Not a real person.
Ben McAdoo.
The point there is Iron Men are rare finds these days. As you said, someone jams their thumb, they're out for a month and a half. It's pretty sad to see. I don't want to go too far off topic, but they're rare finds these days, and if you get one, keep it.
And really, again, to complete our topic here, we don't want to get way off topic, but basically what it came down to was Trevor May the beginning of something big? And to answer that question, finally, fellas, is that yes, and in my opinion, it is. Something here also to go back to what's his face? To Sandy Alderson. Lenny Melnick did write down Zach Wheeler got nothing. Well, you know what? I got to tell you, Lenny, that is the truth. But you know what? Now, that was Brodie Van Wagenen, who unfortunately had to let him go because the Wilpons were still in charge. And really, he was the one that got that trade. He was the one that got him to New York. Great job sending Carlos Beltran, who had a fantastic season in 2014, I believe, 2014 or 14 or 13. And Lenny, if you're watching, correct me if I'm wrong. I see your comments popping up on my other screen here. I'd love to pop them up on here, but it's okay. We'll feed them into here. But I believe it was 2013, 2014 in that range. And again, Alderson did a fantastic job. That's why he's back. And as a Mets fan, Steve Cohen, he knows exactly what he wants as a fan, and it's going to take time. I do not disagree with Tornatore on that. It's going to take time with that transition, because I said this also. It's not, this is a process that will take years, not one season, years. You have to make sure that you have to lay that foundation and you have to build your way up. And that's the cool thing, is that this is now Steve Cohen's baby for the rest of his life and most likely our life as well. So really cool stuff there. Fellas, let's keep moving forward here on the Primetime Rundown. Something that I forgot to bring up in our little introduction with Anthony Tornatore. How dare I? Because you know what? I know half of our viewers are gone already, but Anthony Tornatore is our lead Minnesota Vikings writer. And I really do apologize for that up here, because you know what? I mean, skull everybody. But really, like I said, great stuff there. The Staten Island Yankees, they officially ceased operation, guys. That hurts as Yankees fans.
Yeah, they're suing the Yankees.
It's so sad.
Yeah, and it's really, it stinks. Per a couple of sources, also, guys. Thank you very much, Lenny. Good job, fellas. We appreciate that. I wish we could put that on the screen, but thank you very much for that, and we all thank you for joining us here. SiriusXM host Lenny Melnick has joined us here and commenting with us. Thank you.
All right.
So moving forward, guys, as we did say, Staten Island Yankees, per a couple of sources of mine, apparently Borough President James Otto has said that there is a couple of teams that could be vying to play at the currently vacant Richmond County Ballpark in the brand newly formed Atlantic League. I don't know how that's going to work, but going back on topic, the Staten Island Yankees are no longer. Our childhood single A team is no longer. Rookie A ball and summer ball is now gone, and now it's only in Brooklyn, and now it's gonna be full season. Imagine Coney Island in April. No, not me. I wouldn't want to be on that water in April. Staten Island Yankees, guys, pretty sad stuff. And exactly what Tornatore said, they're suing the New York Yankees.
Empty promises. That's what they said.
The Yankees kind of deserve that. So,
and they're not. And I highly doubt the Staten Island Yankees they're going to win that. It's the New York Yankees.
No, but doesn't mean the New York Yankees didn't deserve it.
But if I did hear correctly, I know the Trenton Thunder, they're gone.
Yeah, them too. Them too.
And they're in Somerset. They went
to the Renegade. They went with the Renegades as opposed to the Thunder without telling the Thunder.
Wasn't it flipped? I thought Staten Island Yankees went to the Renegades.
They did.
They
did.
Yeah. And then the Trenton Thunder went to the Somerset Patriots. And Montclair.
Correct.
See, that's good for me. It's easier to get to Dutchess than it is to get to Staten Island. So I can just go right up the highway and I'm there in 45 minutes.
Exactly. And also in Dutchess, right off of that's another beautiful ballpark there as well. And also as we continue our partnership with the New York Pro Scouts Association as well, right outside of Dutchess County Ballpark is the Professional Baseball Scouts Foundation and their Wall of Fame as well. Many of those scouts are on that wall. Just outside of the first base dugout there. And let's not forget also, guys, that the Hudson Valley Renegades last year was the single A team, the summer league team for the Tampa Bay Rays just before that. And now, as you did say, Tornatore, Somerset is now the double A home of the New York Yankees. Really crazy stuff, man. It really is.
So it took way too long. I don't know if you've ever been there in Montclair. Yogi Berra Museum is right there. I actually attended a camp there a long time ago with Bruce Beck and Iron Eagle, and the stadium is absolutely gorgeous. It's not huge. It's just so nice there. The college campus is great there. It's not that. It's closer than Trenton is, and I think they made a great choice going there. They really did.
Yeah, Montclair, 10 minutes away. 10 minutes from my house. It's right.
It's beautiful.
Yep, I love it there. Yeah, I broadcast for their club hockey team. I love going there. I haven't been back since this all started. I'm dying to see the renovations, but
yeah.
we will see.
It's really a shame with the Staten Island Yankees because and you know what, it really is one of the best ballparks, and the views. I've gone there for Wagner College baseball. I've done some work over there, and I have never seen a Staten Island Yankees game before in my life. I never have.
Exactly.
I never have.
100. Same thing here.
Yeah,
and my family's from Staten Island. Never seen a game.
It's just way over there, though.
Yeah,
it's just tough.
Yeah, it is. And again, the facility is fantastic, but it's just out of the it's out of the way. It's very out of the way, and it's also $20 to get over the Verrazano. So that's really
that's on a non-windy day.
Exactly. Oh, get us started with that one. I'm sure we all saw that video.
I didn't believe it.
Well, we got to realize, fellas, is that a suspension bridge is supposed to be moving that way, God forbid, of any high winds. And we saw it happening right before our very eyes.
They could have told us that before we drove over it.
Well, now you know. Now you know.
Now I know never to go over it.
The Professional Baseball Scouts Foundation has ceased operation as well, ladies and gentlemen. And for those that are watching that know, special assistant to Chicago White Sox owner Jerry Reinsdorf, his name is Dennis Gilbert. He was an agent, or is an agent, rather. Well, he was an agent. He's still on this earth, obviously. But he was an agent. And let's not forget, his most valuable signing was, or his most valuable client, if you will, was Bobby Bonilla. And he was the agent who I know very well. Great man as well. He was the one to coordinate the Bobby Bonilla deal, the one that lasted all the way to 2035. So Dennis Gilbert is that man to do that. And the reason why we bring him up here is because the Professional Baseball Scouts Foundation is a fantastic acknowledgement to all scouts within professional baseball. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic and due to very high costs at their headquarters out in Los Angeles, they had to cease operations, unfortunately. And the New York Professional Scouts Association, they continue to show what scouts mean here on the East Coast. Many scouts all across the country have been celebrated, have been honored, have been awarded many awards at a national gala in Beverly Hills, California, the last I think 15 or 16 years in that range. 18 years. And this year would have been, I believe, number 19. And great event, great everything. But we want to just say that all the best to Dennis Gilbert, who I got a chance to not only meet when I was out at the gala for 2 consecutive years, but it was also a televised event on MLB Network in the Golden Globes room of the Beverly Hills Hilton. And just everything that's going on now with the pandemic, he couldn't keep it going, and he had to merge it with Major League Baseball was the one that absorbed the operation. So I'm still at least happy that the scouts will be getting recognized, even if it's a little bit less. They're still getting recognized because they do a fantastic job. Without them, Major League Baseball would probably not be here because of the talent that they can scout and everything along those lines. Fellas, let's keep it going, and let's get into, before we get into the biggest topic, which is Wednesday afternoon football, I want to go into college basketball. And this is a big topic, and the reason why is because, as we did say in pre-production, with Anthony Tornatore, who is our lead Minnesota Vikings writer for the Eastern Observer, he is also a St. John's alum, as am I. DeLuca is a St. John's diehard fan. So I think now he can get a little bit of sense of comfort when the three of us can talk about St. John's basketball. And because the Eastern Observer and the Blackjack Media Group, all we do is cover St. John's, Seton Hall, and we even cover all the other 9 teams as well within the Big East. Guys, a couple of comments that we did get earlier on the show. We can't show the first comment due to the fact that it was actually asked to us outside of this group here. So we'll ask this from Patrick Hepper. So if you're watching, Patrick, thank you very much for asking this question. He lives in Prescott, Arizona. And it seems as if he is a Johnny's fan. So really cool stuff all the way across in the desert. I want to ask this to the two of you guys. What do you feel are the biggest challenges entering Big East play? Well, I want to start this one off with Rob DeLuca. And we've been covering St. John's basketball for a long time. You've been a diehard fan for most of your life. And to Patrick's point, what do you see as the biggest challenge for Mike Anderson and for the St. John's Red Storm?
Well, it's the same problem they've had for a couple years now since the departure of Tariq Owens, and that is size. Today they got some great news. They have picked up a big man after what feels like a long 3 years of not having a big man. It just felt like a very long and torturous time, but I don't want to butcher his name on air, so I'm not going to try, but
well,
join the club.
yeah. But yes, St. John's did get a Texas Tech big man to enroll mid-season. They are working on getting a waiver to get him eligible immediately, and I think that is absolutely huge before we start Big East play, because having a big man is so important in the Big East, especially after what we saw the other night against BYU on Wednesday, where I can't remember his first name, so off the top of my head.
Arms, yes.
Transfer from Purdue, 7'3", ran all over us. So I think it's very important because size does matter in the Big East. Such a competitive conference, and now with UConn back, it just got that much harder. And the Johnnies, look, they got undervalued in the preseason coaches poll. They really did. I believe the consensus was 9th place out of 11 for St. John's, was it? Or was it 7th place?
For St. John's in the preseason coaches poll?
Correct.
9th.
9th, that's right. Yeah, so I feel that's a very, very big undervalue of them because this team is young. Look, I'm not saying they're going to be the top 3 superstar Big East team, not yet at least. But they are most certainly not going to be finishing 9th place this year. This young team, many of them are back. They are not losing anybody of vital importance from the starting 5 next season. So this team has a good path coming up in the next couple years. But overall, I would say, yes, size, definitely one of the biggest factors in the Big East. And St. John's may have just answered that question today.
Anthony Tornatore, your answer to Patrick Hepper's question of what do you feel are the biggest challenges entering Big East play for your St. John's Red Storm?
Well, before I get to that, if you guys want to know how to pronounce his name,
let's hear it.
Please.
Isaiah Niwe.
Huh.
No, okay.
No, it's not that bad. It looks much harder than it is.
The spelling made it very confusing, so I didn't want to try.
Look, I'm going to give the generic answer. COVID. It's going to be the biggest thing. We've seen it with Iona, which is 10 minutes away from me. Rick Pitino's played 1 game. I think it's really going to hit these teams hard. But on the court standpoint, it's going to be the experience. A lot of underclassmen, a lot of freshmen, a lot of newcomers. You know, when you look at veteran leadership right now, it's guys like Marcellus Erlington and Greg Williams Jr. and Josh Roberts. That's all you really have to look forward to for Rasheem Dunn. Second year, give or take
a little bit. Yeah, I don't know.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, I think that's what it's going to be. It's going to be in those tight, close games against a team like Villanova. Can they come back? Can they be led by their veterans? That's going to be the issue. Because right now you got the freshmen on the team. They're so excited. We're playing college basketball. We're in New York. We're in the Big East. We're a D1 school, and I think they're just excited. But adrenaline wears off. It does. We've seen it, and I think that's going to happen. And that's when the veterans are going to have to come in and say, "Listen, guys, here's the deal. because it's these freshmen that are winning the games right now. The Posh Alexanders, the Vince Coles. We really haven't seen, electric from Greg Williams Jr., Josh Roberts, Marcellus Erlington. And, it's just Julian Champagnie. He's been in there, and he's only a sophomore. So it's going to be the veterans. That's how this team's going to win.
Yep.
And something that we need to bring up for Patrick also, in my opinion, the biggest challenges entering Big East play is finishing games. And also getting off to a good start. It's really, really sad to see what happened against Boston College, where the St. John's Red Storm, inside Bubbleville, they blew a 20-point lead. They blew a 20-point lead, and Julian Champagnie had a double-double, his first career contest with 29 points. That was probably the coolest thing. And you know what? I think that he can only do so much. And I think this team is so young, and that is going to be a big Achilles heel for this year.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest challenge entering Big East play, in my opinion, fellas, is UConn. And I think also because James Bouknight will be taking that team and carrying it on his back, I do believe that he could single-handedly defeat St. John's next Friday night. Yes, let's not forget, next Friday night, inside Gamble Pavilion, St. John's will be facing UConn for the first time in nearly 8 years. The coolest thing, and that is how UConn returns to conference play, is against the St. John's Red Storm. Plenty of history. And we can go on and on about that. But let's continue now with St. John's here, guys. They have Stony Brook coming up. They also unofficially have Ryder coming up as well. Or actually, I'm sorry, no, officially
they put that one.
They did. So it is against Ryder on Tuesday. We expected them to have Fordham on Wednesday, but that was shut down due to the coronavirus. And then also they were expected to have Sacred Heart on Sunday, popular Northeast Conference team up in Fairfield County. And they were projected, or now they have Stony Brook University, American East team, just a few miles east of me. So it's very evident that St. John's has a lot of work to do. They started 3-0. Unfortunately, they lost in the last game to BYU. They came out very, very, very fast, really fast in the second half. First half, not so good, fellas. Non-conference play thus far. What do we think? Anthony Tornatore first.
A little scary. The Boston College game, if I'm not mistaken, they were down a lot early, and they made that comeback. But again, that's my issue. Non-conference, they could go 10-0, which we've seen it before happen in non-conference play with, I know we're going back to the Shamori Ponds and Marvin Clark, Justin Simons, Bashir Ahmeds. They can do it. It's this conference play. So they have to win out the non-conference right now. They have to. They have to find every way to win. And, they're facing Ryder. That should be a win there. If they played Fordham and Sacred Heart, those would have been wins there too. But then you got to look at it from the money point of view is you want people to watch the games. Give me St. John's versus Iona. So this non-conference has been really, I think they've done okay so far. It's exciting to see new faces. But just like you guys know, if they start playing bad basketball, media is going to be on top of them. They don't care if they're only 18 years old. They will be on top of them.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the biggest thing right now, what the deal is in the New York market. It doesn't matter who you are. Rob DeLuca, as a fan, looking as the outsider, looking in terms of, we're talking about from the media side of things, but for you as the fan, St. John's right now ranks third in the Big East through 4 games in total offense. They average 81 points a game, and on defense, they are ranked number 11, dead last in scoring defense. 77 points that they allow. that's a little bit of a problem there. And I want to look at the 3-point defense also. They are number 10. Excuse me. They are number 10. They are number 10 in field goal percentage from beyond the arc. 30. They give up 36% of their shots. Their opponent's shots, that is. DeLuca, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Anthony said it perfectly. They have to channel those Pons days, those old days there, when the Chris Mullin era, when they could go undefeated in non-conference play, because essentially you're given that easy of a schedule where you should be doing that. And it seems like the first time they run into a difficult opponent like the BYU, you knew that BYU was going to come out hungry. They had just lost by 26 the night before to USC. Of course they were going to come out there and try to come strong, and they did. And it bit St. John's. That as hard as they tried to come back, they fell short. And now it's just a matter of racking up these wins before conference play starts, because the Big East is an animal. Everyone beats each other up throughout the season. So they gotta buckle down and get to work, because this is going to be an interesting, with COVID aside, it's going to be a dogfight. That's just the way the Big East has always been. I'm not saying St. John's is going to be a part of that necessarily, but there are going to be some games they can potentially steal that they need to do, especially if they want to be a contender for the Indianapolis bubble coming up in 4 months. You gotta be ready for these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you brought up the 2018 non-conference schedule. That was by far one of the easiest schedules that I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, Joey. I remember extensively talking to you about that one.
Yeah, and
they went 12-0.
Yeah,
and then
they got our hopes up
against teams I never even heard of.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they finished with 20 wins.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It was it was brutal, and they got pounced in the first 4 against Arizona State.
And you know what? Not to get off topic, if Mike Anderson's the coach of that team, how different is it?
They might have won that game if he was.
See, I don't know, and I'll tell you why, because I don't know if Shamorie Ponds would
have messed with them.
No, I don't know if Shamorie Ponds would really fit in Mike Anderson's system.
Hard to say. I mean,
he was a laid-back player. We covered him for how long?
Yeah, covered him for 3 years.
Yeah, and he was it wasn't my favorite person, but I don't know if Rob, Joey, you know Kevin Connolly, right? Our friend.
Yeah.
He put on Twitter the other night that he thinks Posh Alexander is better than Shamorie Ponds.
Well, hold on. Let's ensure.
Well, you know what the tweet is. You know what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
That wasn't verbatim.
Yes, no, that was not verbatim. So
he implied.
So hold on a second, folks.
It's been 4 games of Posh Alexander, and I like what I see so far.
We have to hold on 1 second. We have to ensure that we get that tweet correct. If I'm not mistaken, well, Kevin tweets all the time for St. John's, so I will just say this. He did not say, that was taken out of context, that tweet.
Yes.
Basically what had happened was that he said around the rim, he is a better player around the rim than Shamorie Ponds.
Correct. Yes. I didn't have the tweet,
yes.
But that's how everybody took it as. So
right. Exactly.
Obviously, if you know Kevin, you know how it was taken. But But what was great was that Shamorie Ponds commented on it. And Kevin did not tag Shamorie. So Shamorie must be sitting on his couch, wherever his bed, and he's searching his name on Twitter. Who's talking about me? And it popped up, and it got a lot of people mad. And it got me mad, too, because I started looking up information. I started comparing stats from Posh's first 2.5 games to Shamorie's first 2.5 games, and the numbers are way different. They're 2 different players.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to say that we do disagree with Kevin Connolly on that one.
Oh, and he knows it. He knows I do.
So now obviously with St. John's right now, they are 3-1. We look to the team across the pond, the other one across the river, excuse me, not across the Atlantic Ocean, across the Hudson River, the Seton Hall Pirates. The reason why, and I know two St. John's alum usually don't really talk about the biggest rival in Seton Hall, but we do cover them here on the Eastern Observer. And what Seton Hall has done against Iona, well, they started off extremely poorly, and then also they started off even poorer, if that's even a word, to the Roadies, to University of Rhode Island, and they lost that game. And Sandro Mamukelashvili, all Big East preseason first team selection, was the one to take his team on his back, but it was not enough. With COVID going on right now at 1-2, fellas, we have to ask this question because Joe Nord is someone here that we do appreciate the question, by the way. Thank you. I also love the profile picture. I believe your two children.
That is so cool that you. I know, not to get off topic. It's so cool that you just put that up on the screen. I was like, whoa!
Yeah, more technology, Joe.
Yeah. Courtesy of StreamYard, we are able to put that up on the screen. But also for those that are listening via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, we have to get used to that. We got to make sure that we are making sure that we do accompany our audience and make sure that we do.
Are we live on all of those?
We are not live. We are not live on those.
I thought
but,
not.
Yeah,
right.
but everyone can subscribe to that, and they will be able to hear this.
It's free.
Exactly.
You must emphasize it's free. That's how you get more subscribers.
College hoops question from Joe Nord. Why are the Pirates favored over a ranked Oregon team on the road tonight? So,
you could allow my degenerate self to answer that question, being the New Jersey betting man that I am.
Well, now before we get to that, something that I want to bring up here about that. If I'm not mistaken, just a few moments ago, I did see New York Post's Zach Braziller write down that they are exactly a 4-point underdog tonight against Oregon. And that is unfortunate. I guess that maybe something might have happened there. Why are the Pirates favored over a ranked Oregon team on the road tonight? Well, Joe, they're not. But I really do. We all appreciate you asking that question. Maybe in the beginning they opened up. I don't know. Rob DeLuca, you're the betting man. We're not allowed to bet in the NCAA.
Right.
So
being my degenerate self,
yes.
I'm not being in the NCAA, so I can't get in trouble here. But I think it has a lot, especially with the line being only 4 against a 1-2 team at home, no less. It's got a lot to do with losing to Missouri the other night. Oregon just did not look right. I don't know what it was, but they were definitely not the team that they can be, and it's certainly not the team that the top 25 ranks them as. There's no doubt about that. So I think that's where the small line definitely comes into play, is just because of their performance against Missouri. Although Missouri was lights out. They just played incredible basketball against Oregon and got the victory. So I would say that to answer that question, if that's how the line actually opened up and Seton Hall was favored, that was more than likely why. And that is why the current line only stands at 4, is because of the way Oregon has been playing. However, I do find it shocking that with Seton Hall being 1-2, that it's not larger. And
also, before we get to Anthony Tornatore, let's not forget, it is a 4-point. They are a 4-point underdog now to Oregon. And I personally would like to say the reason for that, familiar face, LJ Figueroa enters the lineup against a very familiar foe in Seton Hall. Tornatore, take it away.
So Seton Hall's +4 now, obviously. I don't think LJ Figueroa makes that much of a difference. It's his first game, not in St. John's, and we don't know how he's going to play with his teammates. And I sit here now, a team that's 0-1 should not be ranked. That's just my opinion. If you win, you should be ranked. But they're 0-1.
Yeah, well, did the new ranking? Maybe the new ranking didn't come out yet. I don't know.
I had Oregon 21. For the last I saw.
Then maybe the new ranking period didn't come out yet. Yes.
It probably didn't. I think
for week number two, fellas, they went down one spot. Okay. They are now 21. They started off the season at 20.
So they lost the game and they went down a spot, which isn't horrible.
But now they lost again, but then they lost again to Missouri. So we'll see where that ends up, regardless of tonight's game, where that ends up putting them.
And actually, it's very funny because they went down 1 in week 2, but it looks as if that they did not play a game. When did they play Mizzou?
It was
a couple of days ago, right?
It was last night or the night before.
Okay, right. So then
not long ago at all.
Yeah. So then the AP poll when that came out December 1st. Which was Tuesday. So that will not be reflected just yet. And we'll see also what happens because let's not forget, Seton Hall is going to be coming out with a spark under them, with fire under them. Tornatore with Seton Hall, do we see anything that could resemble a team that has made the NCAA tournament for the last 6 consecutive seasons? Do we see that with this team post Miles Powell?
No. Miles Powell, the Knicks got a steal. A steal in the draft. They didn't have to draft him, so they saved money there and they signed him. He was a steal. I don't even know how he wasn't drafted. Same with Marcus Howard. I don't know how, because I could have named 45 other guys that should not have been drafted. But that's a conversation for a different time. Yeah. This is Mamu's team. This is his team now. It all depends on him, and we've seen what he can do.
That's right.
I don't think they have enough to get. I think they could get in the tournament. I do think that. I don't think they could go far. I really don't think. Maybe a first-round knockout.
Yeah, Anthony, you're right, because look, this is not at all the same. This is not going to be the Seton Hall powerhouse that we've been used to the last couple of years. Miles Powell was 1,000% different. How he was not drafted makes no sense to me. Same thing with Marquette, losing Marcus Howard. How he was not drafted makes no sense to me. I don't understand how the Big East, unless you're literally considered generational, how you could be overlooked like that in a 2-round draft. I get it's only 2 rounds, but you cannot tell me they were not in the top 60. They were not top 60 of the NBA. That is absurd that these 2 guys went undrafted and were gotten on steals, complete and utter steals, because they don't have to pay them draft money.
Yeah, and again, you know what? I do believe again the revolving conversation eventually ends up with the pandemic. That's what it comes down to at some points. And there are certain guys that are extremely valuable and some guys that maybe they could take a flyer on and see what happens. And as you both said, the Knicks got a steal. I personally believe it as well. Haul in. Seriously, there's no doubt about it. Really good job there from the Knicks and from the new regime there, because there is a lot going on in Knicks land. There's a lot going on in the NBA, which we'll get to later on in the broadcast. Let's keep moving on here, guys. Oregon tonight. Let's not forget, it's a 9:00 start tonight, roughly in about an hour and 45 minutes away from tip-off, inside Omaha in Nebraska, the home of the fellow Big East Conference foes, Creighton Blue Jays. They're playing in their home tonight. That's the neutral site game, and that will come your way 9:00 Eastern time on FS1. We will have all the coverage here for you on Twitter and with a follow-up story as well. Now we keep moving forward here on the program, and we look at the Big East with Providence. And I want to just bring this up here. One last thing for the Big East fellas. Providence is terrible. DeLuca, we were talking about Providence just a few days ago, and I want to know your thoughts, and especially with David Duke not performing. He is an all Big East first team preseason award winner. You would think that he really should be lighting it up just a tiny bit more than what we've seen. And also, Nate Watson can only do so much when he was also, I believe, 20 pounds heavier then, but he also had many injury hiccups last year.
Yeah, they stink. I mean, they do. This is how were they ranked? How did the preseason coaches poll have them third or fourth? It might have been. How do you have them up here? Where did you see that as possible? Yes, David Duke is underperforming, but this is underperforming like no one's ever seen. I can understand, but I don't understand how they could have seen fourth place for them or better. It just does not add up, and it doesn't add up to me because Ed Cooley is one of the greatest coaches in Big East history. Let's not sugarcoat it. He's a legend in his own name there, and he certainly finds a ways to figure it out. It just doesn't seem to be working right now. He's gotta sit down and think about this. I guess maybe it had. I remember Joey. His name is escaping me, but he was on, I want to say, episode 38 when we discussed Providence basketball a little bit.
Jake Zimmer.
That's right, Jake Zimmer. Yes. And
NCAA Hoops Digest contributor for Providence and for
That
Brian.
is right. His name escaped me, Jake. I apologize for that. But yeah, we discussed Providence with him intently, and it seemed I had asked him about Lane Pipkins, who I did not realize at the time is now gone. Yeah. I did not realize he was not going to play this year. That had to have come out after our episode had already been streamed. So that's a big loss for Providence because that kid transferred from UMass. He really can be a difference maker. He was very clutch in his time at UMass, and then in the short amount of games he played with Providence last year, he certainly was a difference maker. So losing him did not help, especially for their depth. And now with David Duke underperforming, you miss him even more now. So it is just a tough time to be a Providence Friar fan.
I'd love to go back to the days Kyron Cartwright, Alpha Diallo, those guys just performing beyond amazingly.
They gave me nightmares.
Cooley, yeah, exactly. And I know, Anthony Tornatore, you guys took a trip up to the dunk, and you've seen what the Providence Friars are capable of. And last year, guys, we saw Providence. They lost badly in the Wooden Classic. Let's not forget Long Beach State. I think they lost by nearly 15 or 20 points last year in December. They had a horrendous non-conference season last year, and they had a rough start to their conference play in 2019-20 before the pandemic hit. Obviously, they were on a roll, and I personally believe that they could have come out as Big East champions. Now, it's looking like we're starting to see some fatigue mentally and physically from this Friars ball team. Anthony Tornatore, you've been a part of the Big East for as long as I have. What do you see out of Ed Cooley's team that, again, as DeLuca said, underwhelmingly performing?
This was Alpha Diallo's team. It's right there. It was his team. And they're trying to find a way to mesh together, and it's not working right now. And I know Ed Cooley will figure it out. He always does. That's why he's one of the best. Once conference play starts rolling around and he sees teams that he's more familiar with, I think they're easily going to be one of the top teams in the Big East. Maybe not 3, but they'll be in maybe 6, 7 the lowest, which I know is not as high, but it's high for the way they're playing right now. I think they're going to find a way to pick it up and start getting on a roll.
Yeah, I mean, again, they in their preseason or in their non-conference schedule thus far, they've played Davidson, they've played Fairfield, and right now they're 2-2. They're really not looking too hot. And in 2 of those games that we just mentioned against Davidson and against Fairfield, they had a season low in assists, conference low in assists. They had a total of 0 assists in the entire game against Davidson.
How do you do that? How's that possible?
And then they had a season low, or I would say second lowest, 6 total assists against Fairfield. against the MAC.
That explains it. How do you can't do this without passing the ball?
What are they doing? One guy's bringing it down the court, and that's it?
And against Fairfield, they also shot and they also converted a season low. And even though we are in a very young season, 2 for 15 from beyond the arc.
Yeah, you can't do that either.
You are chucking. And they also played Indiana. They also lost to Indiana. We spoke about that as well.
The Hoosiers.
So let's keep moving forward, fellas. The Big East, they continue to be on our radar as always because the Big East is forever our home. We will continue to cover them. St. John's, Seton Hall. Seton Hall tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern time on FS1 against Oregon. Former St. John's Red Storm LJ Figueroa will be making his debut once he just got his waiver accepted, or his waiver was passed, or he was deemed eligible, whatever English we want to consider that. He will be on the floor tonight in Omaha against Seton Hall.
Let's see what he's got.
Exactly. Going to be crazy. So now let's get to football, ladies and gentlemen. Again, for all of those that are just joining us here on the Primetime Rundown, presented to you by Black Cats NYC right here on the Eastern Observer. I'm Joey Jarzynka alongside my guy Rob DeLuca and Anthony Tornatore, our lead writer for the Minnesota Vikings on the Eastern Observer. And also, we'll have a little partnership talk later on, but Anthony Tornatore is here to stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. Really good stuff. We cannot thank you enough for joining us here tonight on this Friday evening, 7:21 Eastern time. Also, for those that are just tuning in now, we did come up with a little bit of an announcement earlier this morning that we did reiterate or at the top of the show, which was that our new on-demand home is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Google Play Store. So please subscribe to the Primetime Rundown. Really, really good stuff on all of the platforms that everyone uses. Really great things to come for us here on the Eastern Observer. Guys, NFL, Wednesday afternoon football, the weirdest thing. Trace McSorley gave me a 1-point victory. I think it was 1 point, or was it less than a point, DeLuca? I think it was about less than a point.
You didn't start him as your quarterback.
I did not. Okay. But I had Justin Tucker as my kicker.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
He had 2 points.
I had Justin Tucker as my kicker, and I was down. You ready for this? I was down. I think it was like
1.2.
I think it was like 1.2 or something like that. Yeah. And those 2 points, I won by 0.3 something, right? I think it was like 0.3 or 0.4.
It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
You were 0.33 behind, sweating out, waiting for another point to happen.
Yeah. Really.
I feel bad for the guy you played.
Yes. Well, you know what? It was very funny because in our group message, we actually discussed, or someone actually said, "Congratulations, Kelly, you won, and now I'm in the playoffs." Not me, but that person, right? And it was the all-time hex. It really was, because now that kid that said I'm in the playoffs, I now have to lose and he has to win. So all I need to do is win, and I'm playing a terrible team this upcoming.
That's a hex on my level.
Right, exactly.
Are you playing Rob?
That is no. This is a high school league that I'm a part of. That I've been a part of.
The hex on my level thing goes way back to the NHL bubble.
Yeah. And he would say, and he would say it's over. Right, he would say it's over, DeLuca.
Because here's the thing: the Blue Jackets were up 3-0 with 4 minutes to go. The game was over,
and the Yankees were up 3-0 against the Red Sox, and the series was over. And you see how that turned out.
They scored 19 runs. It was over.
You know, I don't have to worry about trying to win a game like that when you have Deshaun Watson and Derrick Henry starting for you. You never got to worry about that.
He was out at second anyway. It doesn't matter.
No, 42 points in the first half.
So Trace McSorley comes through, guys, on a Wednesday afternoon in Heinz Field. 19-14 is the final score in favor of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They clinch the AFC North. Really, really crazy.
That doesn't say much.
They had an easy schedule.
They are 11-0, and RG3 started the game. He had a massive hamstring pull on a little bit of a QB rush.
I saw that, Joey. I saw that and said it's over.
Yes, you did say that. But guess what? You then placed the hex. So thank you very much for doing that. Trace McSorley 2 for 6 for 70. I believe it was 77 yards.
Good for him.
One touchdown.
Good for him.
Absolutely good for him.
I love him.
And this is, fellas, the Steelers have swept the Ravens for the 6th time in franchise history, the 3rd time in the Mike Tomlin era, and the 1st time since 2017. Any Ravens or Steelers fans out there that would like to chime in, please do. We would love to hear some of your comments and join the conversation, because now we're going to get into this. And all I can say is that there are so many guys on this roster that, for the Baltimore Ravens, that were, and they played. We had no idea who they were. Even Mike Tirico said it too.
This
Half
is so
of these
unfair.
players are all off the practice squad.
So unfair. That game should not have been played. And that's your MVP of the league. The game should not have been played. That's why they had this Week 18 talk. Oh, if games get canceled, they can play Week 18. This has been, and I hear Steelers fans, oh, the NFL's trying to make us lose it. The Steelers have had the easiest schedule.
Give me a break. You guys are
the entire year.
Worst 11-0 team ever.
Teams they played, and I am a 22-year-old out of shape kid. Now I could be.
Now I think before Anthony Tornatore moved on,
you're young.
Yes, he is. Well, before we continue with Anthony Tornatore, we want to continue with our segment of What Grinds My Gears. And clearly, Anthony Tornatore, his grinds are being geared right now. So, Anthony Tornatore, what grinds your gears about this Wednesday afternoon contest?
They didn't want to be there. There was 4 turnovers in the first quarter. That's tied for the most ever. 4 turnovers. You had the backup playing, and then the backup's backup. You didn't have the MVP playing. Your number 1 receiver was Des Bryant. The Steelers, the best team in the NFL, supposedly, with their record. They scored 19 points. The game was just so – they didn't want to be there. Nobody watched it, and all because of a tree light in that you couldn't even go to because Manhattan shut down pretty much. So they did all this. It was just, it got me so irritated. I was listening to the game on a car ride home. Like, really? Like, we're actually playing this game? It means nothing right now.
It was a disaster. The game was a disaster. I remember I was texting DeLuca about it. It was an absolute disaster. It was a dumpster fire, actually. And really, really horrible stuff. You know what? There was a statistic at the last touchdown of the game was with Hollywood Brown and Trace McSorley. Here is a fun fact for those that are watching at home or even listening on your car ride home, whenever this may be played in your car on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate that. Hollywood Brown's 70-yard score in the 4th quarter was the longest touchdown reception by any player on a Wednesday since 1948. Breaking records, Hollywood Brown breaking records.
I didn't know they even played games on Wednesdays.
Yeah, they played on Wednesdays back then.
Like, really, that's what shocked me.
The Steelers were one team to actually play on a Wednesday.
Feeling good on a Wednesday.
So, again, you look at some of these numbers here, and you said it, guys. I think it was, and Tornatore, you said it. They didn't want to play. They did not want to play. RG3 looked absolutely awful. He had 33 passing yards, and if I'm not mistaken,
you sound surprised that RG3 was horrible.
Well, you know what was crazy, DeLuca? It was RG3 to Des Bryant. It was like 20.
Oh, that was could that be more 2020 football in a sentence?
I was going to say
have a Wednesday night, or not even Wednesday night, Wednesday afternoon 3:40 football game on NBC called by Mike Tirico and Tony Dungy. Or no. Alan Chris, both legends, all legends. So yeah, Wednesday afternoon, 3:40 p.m. in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. RG3, the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, throwing to Des Bryant.
Yeah.
Do you know
what on the Ravens? Do you get more 2020 than that in
one? You know what the sickest thing was, though? They had Roger Goodell on at halftime.
Yeah.
That's even funny.
How? And I'm watching this because I got home from work to see that. I was like, you have to be kidding. You have to be kidding me. Like, the guy wants to be the most hated man in the world. And he's like, oh, we did everything we could. Like, really? Like, just keep your mouth shut. It was so bad. They did everything wrong.
Anytime the baseball, football, or hockey commissioners open their mouths, Adam Silver just looks that much better. I'm not even kidding. It is second to none how he is the best commissioner of the 4 major sports. It is not even close.
Well, now we move on here with the rest of everything in football, because now we might as well get to and we have to say this, guys, and I hate to say it. It kills me to say it, and I know DeLuca is loving this right now. The New York Football Giants are in first place.
Damn straight they are.
They are in first place. How did they get there? And is the record better? Are they better than their record says? Tornatore, let's start with you, because you are an outsider. You're a Minnesota Vikings fan.
Yes.
So you looking on the outside in, and your quarterback is a former QB in the NFC East who has many struggles, who has one of the highest guaranteed quarterback contract in history, is on your squad.
Go
ahead.
Before we go any further, before I answer that question, Kirk Cousins gets slept on. He does. He is the best passer rating in the fourth quarter in the NFL. Since week 8, he's probably in the top 3 best quarterbacks behind Mahomes and Watson. And that's all backed up by stats. As you could see when I post my next Vikings article, you'll see it in there how really, I don't want to say he's the greatest quarterback, but he's not as bad as people say. But as an outsider looking in from this, I don't know how you're an Eagles fan, because I thought being a Vikings fan was hard. That's being hard, because when are they going to get rid of Carson Wentz? It's over with. You have Jalen Hurts. Just try. What's the worst that could happen?
Let's stay on topic, Tornatore.
I can't. I can't. I think the Giants are going to win.
Get to the Eagles, I'm sure.
I think the Giants are going to win the division.
As do I.
And that's with Colt McCoy. Like, the year's going to end with Colt McCoy, Joe Flacco, Alex Smith, and Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz as quarterbacks. We've never seen it.
And possibly Ben DiNucci. No, not actually.
Ben DiNucci. I sold his rookie card when it was very high in price, and then it went drastic.
Look at you playing doing that nice of a job. So listen, I think the New York Football Giants, they're going to win the division for sure. I really do believe it. I do believe it because they don't. I think that their defense is so underrated. It really is. And Logan Ryan should be staying there and possibly getting an extension. Yeah, I want to say that.
I will say that.
You would say that?
I will say that as the community Giants fans. Extend Logan Ryan yesterday. Extend him right now. Extend James Bradbury right now. Extend everybody. Just keep him.
I wouldn't go that far yet. They're in the worst division in football right now.
Well, yeah, there's not much saying there.
This is the first time that a team's going to go into the playoffs and have like the top 5 pick in the draft. It never happened before.
Well, yeah, they automatically have to pick like 19th, and that's if they lose in the first.
And they're hosting a game.
That doesn't mean much with no fans, but still, it's interesting that this is where we're at, because the Giants are not a good team, but they've been more competitive in games than any other team I can think of in games that they've lost. This is a 4-7 team that could easily be an 8, like based on final scores and based on just how the fourth quarters went, they could easily be 8-3 as well. Or like they could, the last 7 games the last 6 games they're 4-2. They started 0-5, so they're 4-2 since then. They could easily be 6-0 since then, very easily. They could easily have just the way they played. Because also before this little win streak started, those 2 losses were by 1 point and 3 points. These are games that they're in. The New York Giants have only gotten blown out twice. And the Steeler game wasn't really a blowout, but it was more than one possession. The 49er game, they forgot to show up. It happened. Every other game has essentially come down to the last play. So this team could easily – it could be 9-2, but they're not because they're not that good of a team. They are 4-7. But that is apparently good enough to be in first place in the NFC East, a division that was handed to the Dallas Cowboys on a silver platter. Everyone knew it until Dak Prescott went down, and that platter was handed off to the Philadelphia Eagles. And they have just downright choked. And to Anthony, when you said, what are the Eagles going to do? I know we're getting off topic. We're trying to stay on the Giants here, but the Eagles are going to be a topic themselves. When are they going to give up on Carson Wentz? Not until Doug Peterson's fired. Because the moment Doug Peterson goes away from Carson Wentz, he goes on the hot seat.
Wait, Joe, I know you got something to say, but wait. Doug Peterson did an interview the other night on Zoom or whatever it was, and he put his trophy like right next to him, like to all you have. Like I'm saying, like that's all you have to show. Like it's the greatest thing ever because it is. Like, what are you doing? Just it's so comical, but yeah. Go, Joe. This is what grinds your gears, I'm assuming.
No, we'll get to that in a second because we're not at that. We're not at that topic yet. But for those that do not know, Daniel Jones got hurt and he will be missing an extended period of time. We don't know. He is week to week with an injury. Colt McCoy went 6 for 10 for 31 yards. He looked decent. He looked pretty good. But again, is that saying much? Rob DeLuca against a 2-7-1, now 2-8-1 Cincinnati Bengals team. Joe Burrow-less, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, look, at least we figured out how to beat the Bengals. I mean, it's not bad. But
just don't be the worst team. Like
literally, don't.
Just don't be the worst team. They're so bad.
Look, Colt McCoy did not do bad. But look, this is why I don't think the Giants can win the division. If Daniel Jones is out long term, this schedule is way too hard. They have to go through right now Seattle with Colt McCoy.
That's a loss.
Then that was a loss even if Daniel Jones was playing. Let's be real.
So wait, keep going. I don't know the rest of their schedule.
Yeah, no. Then they go to they play Cleveland. Then it's Cleveland at home. No, it's Arizona at home. It's Arizona.
That's a loss.
And they're up and down. It's potentially winnable, but you must have Daniel Jones back for it.
If you have Daniel Jones back, my opinion changes.
Yeah, it all depends. Then you are at home against Cleveland.
That's another one that I don't know.
Yeah, they're 8-3, but they're weird. They're the weirdest.
They're the worst 8-3 team in football.
It's so weird how they're 8-3, but that's what happens. That division got such an easy schedule this year. It's insanity. But not Then they go to then they go to Baltimore, which will be tough in itself, and then they close out with Dallas.
And they're in Baltimore, no less.
Yeah, in Baltimore. So this is not an easy schedule for the Giants. 5 games left. Very, very tough. And if they don't have their starting quarterback, the path becomes that much more difficult. And honestly, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off. It all depends on how Colt McCoy looks against Seattle, because I'm not expecting anything. As long as he looks okay, if Daniel Jones has to be out longer than 1 game, maybe it will provide some hope. We will have to wait and see. Of course, I could also say that Colt McCoy is just going to become the next Nick Foles. Here we go, Super Bowl.
Oh, my God. Relax.
You know what, Tornatore? Here, you know what? Both mine and your reaction to that, here you go. That is, you want to talk about Super Bowl? What? Okay.
I know there's other stuff you got to talk about, but the only way they could win this game is if they throw the ball, because they have a horrible secondary, the Seahawks. And
I know.
Their one issue is that their quarterback cannot throw the ball.
Yeah, that's the problem. There was a microscopic chance if Daniel Jones played. I don't see it anymore, obviously.
I would have him play. Just stand in the pocket and throw it. Don't do anything else.
It's gonna be real weird. And unless Gallman can be a monster, which he has surprisingly been this year for the New York Giants. Wayne Gallman.
He's been a great. He is done. He's gotten the touches, and he's not bad.
He's absolutely earning his bread here.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
spot to stay Saquon Barkley's backup for the foreseeable future.
Fellas, let's keep moving on here. I personally believe the New York Football Giants will win the division. The Philadelphia Eagles, they have way too many obstacles. And when I say obstacles, I'm talking about not only on their personnel, their roster, their coaching staff, all the way up to Jeffrey Lurie, their owner, but also their schedule is not easy as well. They have the Packers this upcoming weekend, which is nationally televised game 425, which is an absolute abomination that actually it was not flexed out to a 1 o'clock regional game.
The Packers are 9-2, so what do you expect?
Right, exactly.
We'll talk about the Packers.
Right, yeah. Well,
we'll talk about the Packers.
Skull. And then also, then after that, then they play the New Orleans Saints in Philadelphia, and then they also then go to Arizona. That is their next 3, and those 3 are not easy games. So that is, like I said, that's why.
Let me tell you something. As embarrassing as that tie against the Bengals is, that's going to come up very important. Because the final 2 games are Washington and Dallas.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what? Anything could happen, but you saw that Dallas team whip the Vikings with Andy Dalton, and Dalton's he's not a bad quarterback. It's just, the entire team is just bad.
He's an old quarterback who just played on bad teams for so long. He doesn't know what it's like to have all these weapons.
Yeah. Now, let's keep moving forward. Minnesota Vikings lead writer for the Eastern Observer for us, Anthony Tornatore. I want to start off with you with the Minnesota Vikings. This past weekend, they pulled off a 1-point victory over the Carolina Panthers. They had 3 giveaways, they were the first time since week 13 of 2010 to have 3+ giveaways in a single game and win. Talk about that game against Carolina and what that does as they are now 5-6, and talk about the horrid start that they had and how they have completely turned the page from the beginning of the season.
It's ironic because when you think of giveaways, you think of interceptions mostly.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins has thrown 1 interception since week 8. And the Vikings they're in the top 5 in most giveaways. It's all fumbles. They fumble the ball a lot. Dalvin Cook has had fumbles in back-to-back weeks that he's lost. But the team they've come around, and it's because of their coach. Mike Zimmer is a hell of a coach. He deserves all the credit in the world, and I don't think he gets enough of it. He lost his entire defense. He lost people that didn't want to play due to COVID. He lost players that were traded, lost players that got hurt, and he's taken a bunch of rookies, Jeff Gladney, 2 years guys, Cam Dantzler, and he's turned them into decent players, and that's what his strength is, his defense. On the flip side, you have, besides Derrick Henry, the best running back in the NFL. There's nothing you could tell me otherwise, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Vikings fan. He leads the league in rushing touchdowns or in scrimmage touchdowns. He has 1,100 rushing yards, and when he's healthy, he's one of the best players in football. But how they turned it around is they got angry, and the Vikings are a dangerous team when they're angry and when they got embarrassed. And they woke up, they beat the Packers. That was their first game they won, and everything else went to the moon, and they have a real shot at making the playoffs now. Arizona's in front of them by 1 game, and Arizona plays the Rams this week. So the Vikings could be looking at the second wild card spot in about 55 hours.
It's crazy. I have to tell you, because as you did bring up that they're going to play Jacksonville, and most likely they'll be heading to 6-6. I have to say this. They had Yannick Ngakoue in the beginning of the season, right? Mm-hmm. And then they traded him to Baltimore because he was literally invisible on the field on the opposite side of Danielle Hunter. And it simply did not work. Then you had Anthony Barr, who then went down. And now the only guy that you have in the linebacking core that really makes a big difference there is Eric Kendricks. And in the back as well, Harrison Smith has done a fantastic job anchoring that secondary.
They've all stepped up.
Sorry?
They've all stepped up.
Yeah, and they've had to, especially because of a defensive line that really has been non-existent, as well as a plagued linebacking core. Justin Jefferson also has been helping not only my fantasy team, but also he has been helping Kirk Cousins. He really has, and he's really been a fantastic complement to Adam Thielen as well, when healthy, of course. Rob DeLuca, your thoughts on the Minnesota Vikings? Because, again, we do cover them, and the man right below us is the one that is a consistent writer for us on his Vikings.
And does a fantastic job, I might add.
That's right, yes.
But it's going to be close. Look, it's going to be real tight. The Vikings are coming on after what can only be described as a horrid start to the season, I guess, if to put it lightly. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how the Vikings finish down the stretch. They're definitely on a little bit of a roll. But this wild card, it's going to be very interesting. The Vikings are going to need a little bit of help because the Cardinals are a competent team. So they certainly have the ability to win this game against the Rams on Sunday. And that's just the power of the NFC West. That's just how things have been going lately. Like, that division is a dogfight, and it could literally go three different ways at this point.
Yeah, the Cardinals have I don't want to say they have a tough schedule coming up, but they play the Rams. Then they travel to New York to face the Giants, the Eagles. Then they come back to the West Coast, 49ers and the Rams. So
you know what? None of that's a guarantee. None of that's a guarantee.
I would only say that if I had I would think they would go 2-3.
Yeah,
and I'm being generous. Sorry, Joe. Sorry, Rob. I don't think you guys are beating them. I just think
it's very possible we don't. But
and the Vikings schedule,
it's not possible for the Eagles to lose. It's a definite that they're going to lose.
and then you got the Vikings, who they face a Jacksonville team that's lost 10 in a row. Then they travel to Tampa Bay to face the Buccaneers, and we know how. And I don't think we're gonna. I'm not gonna jump out and say, "Oh, we're gonna beat the Buccaneers," but we see how Tom Brady has fared this year and turns the ball over a lot this year. So it's possible.
Yeah, the great one, the GOAT, has not been so great this year. So
they haven't. And then they face a Bears team that's struggling, and then the Saints, and then the Lions. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be exciting.
If I may, thank you to the Jacksonville Jaguars for knocking me out of Survivor Week 1 and then never winning a game the rest of the season. That's much appreciated.
You picked them in your Survivor pool?
I picked the Colts.
The Colts played Jacksonville Week 1?
Yeah, I picked the Colts and they beat them.
Oh my God!
And the Jaguars have yet to win a game this year. Incredible.
Oh,
the Colts were the safest bet that week in the opening week, and they choke it away.
The Colts are that weird team that they're good but they're bad, and
that's what happens when Phillip Rivers is your quarterback, which I should have thought of.
Oh my God.
Guys, let's finish off this episode number 43 with a little bit of NBA talk. And there was a little bit of a trade and a monumental, a Woj bomb, if you will. That was big breaking news just a few days ago. Russell Westbrook was traded to the Washington Wizards for a first-round pick and John Wall heading back to Houston. I mean, really, crickets on all three of our screens. But James Harden was supposed to be a Brooklyn Net. Anthony Tornatore, who is a Nets fan. And Rob DeLuca is a New Jersey Nets fan, and I think he kind of, forgot the last 9 years. But
you didn't miss much.
Yeah, well.
The last say Rob DeLuca still thinks that Deron Williams is on the team as well.
God bless Deron. KG and Pierce, did wonders for us.
No, that was the worst. We're still haunted by that.
Never talk about it. Never talk about it. Because we're moving on from it. Now we've got what we got here, and they're going to be good, obviously. But
what does this do for Russell Westbrook? Does it do anything? How does he complement Bradley Beal?
I don't think it does.
It really doesn't do anything. The Wizards are still not going to be good.
Is this a lose-lose for both teams? An oft-injured John Wall, can he fit in with James Harden? And what's the first round pick going to be like? Is it going?
That's it. That's the trade.
That's why it's not a loss for Houston, because they got the first round pick too. So it doesn't make a difference, because you can bank on the Wizards still not being good. So regardless of what you do as a team, you've got an extra first round pick now.
And Russ, I don't want to say Russ is a phenomenal player. He's not that far off from John Wall. So one healthy John Wall could be
exactly.
It's the same exact player. Yeah,
we're not. Yes, so that's why this trade is not that significant in any way, shape, or form, because you literally exchange the same thing when they're healthy. So
they might as well have traded first round picks too. Houston should have gave them a first round pick too, just an even swap.
Yep. There's not much to say there, really. I don't feel like a couple of stars were traded. We're traded for each other.
Unless they're, and this is the only way I think of it, if James Harden winds up in a Brooklyn uniform, which I don't think is going to happen.
Not at this point.
I don't think that, but if they're going to get a lot of first round picks, and look at Oklahoma City and Sam Presti. They have 17 first round picks in the next 5 years.
And then again, unless like KG and Pierce, unless they win a ring, the trade is meaningless.
Oh yeah,
that was the point of the KG Pierce trade. That would be the point of a Harden trade, is to get the ring. And if that doesn't happen, you blow it completely.
But you'd also have a younger Harden. Harden's much younger than Paul Pierce was.
That's true. That's absolutely true. You get a great player, but if you don't win the ring, you have to give up all these picks. What is it worth then? The future's tarnished again. So that's why I was thrilled when they overpaid Joe Harris, because it pretty much ensured that James Harden will not be coming to Brooklyn.
Joe E. Buckets.
Yeah, that is very true. Fellas, let's conclude the show. Just before we do, we got one more question in from the St. John's Red Storm group. We want to revert back to our college basketball talk. And Alan Charles, if you're watching, another one from Prescott, Arizona. We do appreciate you asking the question. And if you are tuned in here to the Eastern Observer, we can't thank you enough. Really, really amazing stuff here that we are getting some questions here on the show. Really great stuff here. Alan Charles asks, quote, how do you feel about UConn being back in the Big East? And if you could bring back one other team to the conference, which would it be? That is a fantastic question.
I like
and this is a good one to conclude our show. I want to start with Rob DeLuca first.
I love fun questions like that. I hope we get more of those in the future. Those are always fun. So, how I feel about UConn? I love it. As a Big East person, I love seeing the conference having this competition. But as a fan of the St. John's Red Storm, I absolutely can't stand it. The fact that UConn is back just makes the road that much harder for St. John's. So that becomes a real pain, because a team that gave us problems back in the day is back again to do the exact same thing. It'll be like nothing's changed. And as for if I could bring back one more, you know what? Just because I know a few of them and they love to talk trash, because, oh, yeah, we're in the Big Ten now and we're better than you because of it. Bring back Rutgers and bring it on, all right? Because you know what? The 2011 Big East tournament, guess what? He stepped out of bounds. He traveled. He threw the ball in the stands. Should have been a technical foul. Go cry about it, all right? St. John's wins the game and moves on. And eventually makes the March Madness tournament. So you know what? There you go.
Alan Charles, you have officially gotten Rob DeLuca to find out what really grinds his gears. That is
bring him back and let's do it.
That really is amazing. Well, you know what? Just before we get to Anthony Tornatore, I'll just chime in my little 2 cents here. Rutgers is the team that I would bring back for sure. Boston College, I think that they I don't know. I look at the local rivalry, and I think that Rutgers would be fantastic. We look right now what Steve Peichel has done to this team. They're now 24th ranked. They started off a little slow against Fairleigh Dickinson. They started off they started off a little slow against FDU, but then against Hofstra they completely steamrolled them. But in all truth be told here, Rutgers, Geo Baker, really Cliff, I can't pronounce his name, Amiori, I believe his last name is, and really I think that would really do wonders in a group that is really led again by Geo Baker, who now has an ankle sprain. He'll be out week to week. But I think because it's just so close and what Rutgers has become in the Big Ten, they're really minuscule as opposed to the Michigan States, to the Spartans, the Wolverines of the world. To those big schools, I think that they would be so much better off in a Big East where they could be up top and they could be in the same realm as UConn. Excuse me. And I do believe that they really would be a perfect 12th team in the Big East. To answer the question about how do I feel about UConn, I hate it. And just like what Kevin Willard said as well, if he was able to vote, he would vote against it. And why? Because let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Hurley is a Seton Hall alum and a New Jersey native. A lot of his players are coming from New Jersey. A lot of the recruits and his spots to recruit are from the Garden State. And now that hurts not only Rutgers, because they're also in the Big Ten as well, but you're going to see that effect now start to hit Rutgers, but it's going to hit, most of all, it's going to hit Seton Hall, because that is a school in New Jersey, and that's what I see. So how do I feel about bringing UConn back? I can't stand it. For the conference, it's phenomenal. Anthony Tornatore, final thought for you on that question from Alan Charles.
I could care less about the men's UConn team. You're bringing back Gino, the greatest women's coach of all time when it comes to NCAA women's basketball, and I feel like they're not getting the respect.
Let's not forget Pat Summitt.
One of the best, not the best, one of the best, and I feel like it's gotten shoved under the carpet. I really do think that, and just the excitement that he brings and his teams and his recruitment is phenomenal. And I think that I love the women's team being back in. I could really, the men's team, I don't think they're going to be this powerhouse team that's going to take over the conference. And if they do, it's not going to be for a while. Now, if I would bring back a team, I think I'd bring back one of the best teams in the early 2000s in the Big East. Pitt.
Yeah.
University of Pittsburgh. I feel like they would be a great addition there. I feel like a rugged school, a rugged team that would fit perfectly in this New York metro area, especially with St. John's and the schools around here, Villanova, Seton Hall. I think they'd be a perfect fit to come back. And if I had to pick a close second, it would be Syracuse, just because of the name. Syracuse, Jim Boeheim. I don't know how much longer he has left, maybe a year or two. Wait until his son finishes out, but
he'll die. Who are you kidding? He'll die coaching that team.
You're right. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he wants to enjoy retirement. But those are the two teams that most likely Pitt.
Well, now what the biggest thing to me is about Pitt, they just lost to St. Francis University in the NEC. And they lost bad. That's an embarrassment.
It's an easy win for St. John's.
It is. That is very true. But they are no longer the powerhouse, especially in the ACC, that they once were in the Big East. That's for sure.
But you think if they move to the Big East, they move back to the Big East, more players are going to want to go there.
That's fair. That's definitely fair, because they are on the bottom of the totem pole in the ACC. And the same thing goes with a BC.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, let's wrap this up with our kudos. We usually do this every week. Not usually. We do this every single week. And we come up with the best, or what we think it could be the best, the worst thing that could have happened in the past week of sports. And because we were off the air for about 2 weeks, we still think of it in, that we've been off the air for a week. So I'll start this off here. And my kudos goes to John Gruden. And John Gruden called Atlanta the best 3-6 team that was still around. And only to get spanked by Atlanta 45-6. So to me, that says that he waved the white flag before they got on the plane in Las Vegas. You don't even show up. That is horrendous. Kudos to John Gruden for saying that, and then for making it happen. They made it happen. The Atlanta Falcons had John Gruden eat his words. Kudos to the Las Vegas Raiders for not showing up and for making Derek Carr another meme. Good stuff there. Rob DeLuca, your final kudos.
My kudos goes to the National Women's Hockey League. They figured out their season, which is great news for them because, these women have full-time jobs. They had to try to figure this out, and the answer was a 2-week bubble in Lake Placid, New York, playing on the Miracle on Ice rink, no less. There will not be fans in the building, obviously. This is not even a little bit ideal to what they really wanted to do. But with the restrictions that they have, just not bringing in not having the exposure, therefore not getting the revenue that is required to have these women play full time. This is the best they could do, and it's still a great move. They have a very loyal viewership, myself included. It's going to be a great tournament. Everyone plays each other one time as regular season. Then they go to playoffs, and then eventually the final for the Isabel Cup. Go Riveters! Way to get your season under wraps and figured out before literally the NHL, which is honestly not hard to do anymore.
Anthony Tornatore, final one on the docket. Who does your kudos, or what does your kudos go to this week?
NBA Hall of Famer Bill Walton. Bill Walton's a national treasure, and if you guys know me, I tend to find comedic things as the greatest things ever. And during the UNC versus Texas game last night, Garrison Brooks got injured, and he got up fairly quickly. And before he could get back up, Bill Walton said he's getting up quicker than Nate Robinson did. So, and you think of a serious event, the kid could be hurt, and then there's Bill Walton, and we've heard Bill Walton do this before, and that's my kudos goes to him. Just a national treasure. We have to protect him at all costs. If there's a bomb that comes, we have to protect him. We don't have to worry about anybody else. Bill Walton is the number one guy to protect.
I don't even know. I think that is the perfect way to conclude this show, because that might be the best kudos that we have had in the last, I think, what's this? Like 4 or 5 episodes of this, probably. Yeah, I think so. It's really, really unbelievable to hear out of Tornatore's mouth that he is a national treasure. Wow. Good Lord, have mercy on all of our ears. Really, really crazy stuff there. So Patrick Hepper did comment. Can you let us know the responses? We can't listen in. We are in Arizona. Love the storm. Subscribe to us, ladies and gentlemen. That's the biggest thing. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Please do that also. And also subscribe to us on Google as well. Really good stuff here. And we want to thank Anthony Tornatore, lead Minnesota Vikings writer for us, the Eastern Observer. We really appreciate you coming on here, Anthony, and or Tornatore.
Thank you.
And something that we have to bring up here, because we do have a little bit of time. Anthony Tornatore goes by Tony T in wrestling, and in our other show that is powered by us and presented by Minutes to Bell Time, the Daily Wrestling News Show, he was on with our guy, Ryan Joy. And when Ryan asked me to make a graphic that said Tony T, I almost peed my pants. And the only thing that I could think of was this. This is the only thing that I could think of. And
I'm a cereal box now.
and for those that are wondering, that are listening to this, that was a Tony the Tiger graphic that we just put up there. Anthony Tornatore, I need to ask you this before we go. First off, you are the reason why NAWA Wrestling, the North American Wrestling Alliance, and the Eastern Observer have come together, and we really do appreciate it. Because, now we're going to have Amber Nova on Tuesday night, which we'll get to in just a minute with the Essential Wrestling Podcast. She'll be making some guest picks along with owner Tony Capone. Tuesday night, December 8th at 6 p.m., presented to you by Pro Wrestling Pick'em, Al Carl, Ryan Joy, John Smith, John DeConi, Gary Mehefe. All begins right here at 6 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. Tornatore, why Tony T?
I didn't pick it. He picked it.
I
don't know what I would pick. Look, a lot of wrestlers, they change their names, and a lot of the broadcasters do too, so it sounds more TV. And Anthony Tornatore is a very long, it's not quick to the point.
That's fair.
So, he said it one day, and it's not like I've never heard it before. That's what people call my dad. And so I guess it's, I don't know, maybe I'll come up with another name, a cooler one, but we'll start with this one and we'll work our way.
That is too funny. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue our paying the bills here, if you will. Just for, just to, once again, bring up Black Cats NYC. Their newest album, Free Cake, did come out on November 13th, 2020. There's many, many good songs. You did hear at the top of the open for our show. You did hear Dirty Little Hipster, which is a part of that album. Listen to it on Apple Music, Deezer, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, Pandora, and Spotify. Also, tomorrow morning, ladies and gentlemen, at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, as we alluded to earlier, our partnership with the New York Professional Scouts Association continues as we go with episode number 33 of the Scouts Minute. And that is going to feature former area scout and Latin American supervisor for the aforementioned teams, Mets, Brewers, White Sox, Cubbies, and the Red Sox, Dan Monson. He is the one that signed this pitcher, Heathcliff Slocum. He is the one that was traded from Boston to Seattle in the horrendous deal, 2-for-1, Derek Lowe and Jason Varitek. That is the scout to sign the aforementioned Slocum. That will be tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time right here on the Eastern Observer. Really cool stuff there. And also, for those that are wondering about the Essential Wrestling Podcast giveaway, yes, we are the ones that are doing that here. The Essential Wrestling Podcast and the Eastern Observer have teamed up with Sidelines. It is a wrestling memorabilia store out in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania near Stroudsburg. And we have teamed up to give away a Jim the Anvil Neidhart, if that's correct, the pronunciation, Tornatore. Yep. Jim the Anvil Neidhart, 8.5 by 11 signed photo, as you can see just to the left on the screen. There are some rules and regulations on how to do it and how to win. So on Tuesday nights, search I-95 Sports Network on YouTube. Join our channel by clicking subscribe, and be sure to turn on your notifications by clicking the little bell there, because we don't want you to miss a show. And also, while you're watching the show, give us a little bit of comment and, give us a little bit of love here. Join the conversation with Al, Ryan, and the guys, and add the hashtag EWPAnvil. EWP Anvil is the way to go, ladies and gentlemen. So please definitely do that. If you would like to win a signed Jim the Anvil Neidhart 8.5 by 11 graphic.
Am I able to participate?
You are not able. Actually, you are able to participate.
I met him already. He's such a great guy, and rest in peace to him. He was a hell of a guy. His daughter is actually a wrestler in the company now.
Well, really, really good stuff there. And also, as we did say, and just to finish off our podcast here tonight, we said it at the top. This is something that we really appreciate, not only from Anthony Tornatore, but also from North American Wrestling Alliance's owner, Tony Capone. Tony Capone. We're going to have on the Eastern Observer and the Essential Wrestling Podcast, Amber Nova, really amazing wrestler. December 19th, guys, is going to be the Jingle Brawl that Anthony Tornatore will be down there. He will be the play-by-play broadcaster for on Fight TV. Really cool stuff there, Tornatore. That is also, all of that information is on our website, theeasternobserver.com. Tornatore, give us a little bit of a background of what you're going to be doing down there, and give us a little bit of a preview of December 19th as well.
So I'll be a play-by-play broadcaster with Tony DeVito down there. It's going to be a hell of a show. It's the reboot of the NAWA. They've been out for a couple of years, and they're bringing it back, and it's going to be with a bang. We just announced Amber Nova will be facing Lindsay Snow for the NAWA Women's Championship, and Lindsay Snow has been on AEW these past 2 weeks. We'll have Gangrel, former WWE superstar, versus Kahagas as our opening match, and there's going to be a lot of surprises. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be a fun night, and if you're a fan of just any type of wrestling, this is one of the first live events that's taken place since the pandemic hit, so this is a big deal.
Well, really glad to hear that our partnership continues, as well as Anthony Tornatore's trip down to the great state of Florida. It's going to be a ton of fun, I'm sure. Our very own Ryan Joy will be there covering it, and I'm sure Anthony Tornatore and Ryan Joy will be meeting up there as well. Going to be a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, for one final time, Rob DeLuca, Anthony Tornatore, and for all of us at the Blackjack Media Group, I'm Joey Jarzynka. We'll see you next time.